Welcome to another meeting of the Lorain County Commissioners, broadcast exclusively on your Lorain County Community College education station. The Lorain County Commissioners cordially invite you to see the meeting live and in person every Thursday morning. The meetings are located in the Lorain County Administration Building, located at 226 Middle Avenue in downtown Elyria. The meetings start at 9:30 a.m. on most weeks. Now, enjoy the meeting.
Would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here we go again. Good morning and welcome to the August 2nd meeting of the Lorain County Board of Commissioners. I would like us to observe a moment of silence in memory of Lillian Leach, Lorain County's first Director of Voices for Children, who passed away Tuesday and whose funeral services are this afternoon. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Okay, there are no scheduled appointments for this morning. Under resolutions, I need a motion to approve the Job and Family Services bills for payment.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Investments?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Appropriations?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. I have to abstain on the $50,000 for the from the solid waste department to the county health department. I find it interesting that the city of Elyria and Lorain do not pay for attorneys from the solid waste grants. They use the service of the city's prosecutor's office as allowed by law. According to Ohio Revised Code section 3090.09, the county prosecutor is mandated to provide service to all county offices and boards. Yet the county health department has used over 21% of the grant for attorney fees. Plus, the same attorney is the attorney for the county health department, I believe being paid from their levy funds. Plus, he is an assistant county prosecutor and the attorney for solid waste department. It has always been my opinion that this appears to be a conflict of interest, and because of my opinion and other disagreements between the county health department and myself, I suspect the attorney fees from the grant have been used as selective enforcement against my son. Therefore, in light of what has recently happened, I have to abstain.
Madam Clerk, you call the roll, please.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye, with the one exception.
Was there a number on that?
No, it's just, I don't know, it might be numbered as page.
Okay. That was for the health department?
Yes.
Okay. Transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
There are no advances today. Requisitions?
So moved.
I'll second it I have exceptions to the requisitions. Exception 1638-1 and 1639-1.
What were they?
Okay,
Which
those
was
are
which ties into what issue number 10 on our agenda is going to be. And minutes before coming out here, Mr. Cortez tried to explain to me really quick what they were. So would you like to help me out on that?
Certainly, Commissioner.
Okay.
Those are two requisitions that deal with our email and internet access with Erie Shores. We're under contract. These are a fee for service. The original requisition that I received was for payment through the remainder of this year. Subsequently, I sent that back down to purchasing and told them I wanted to go on a month-to-month as we were looking at issues with our service and with the other providers. So those requisitions were changed to reflect 2 months in arrears and 1 month forward that we're going to need that service, and then we'll review it as we progress in looking at other companies. So we really do have to pay that. It's under contract. But the issue is being looked at very closely right now.
Page 1.
Page 1, item 1638-01 and 1639-01.
Okay, so this was for services performed?
Right. If you look at the actual paperwork, you'll see, I believe it's for June and July, and then for the month of August.
It says
It
June
says
through...
6/1 to 8/1.
Yeah, so it's really for 2 months. You're looking at June and July, which is, if I divide $3,800 by 2, that's quite steep.
Well,
Is that right, or no? Is that our going rate?
That's what we're contracted to pay.
Oh, right now it is?
Right. I cannot speak to the suitability or the effectiveness of that rate. I
Okay.
just know that's the contracted rate right now.
Now, on this web page hosting, then, the $600, are we gonna, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll wait till we're on number 10 and we'll discuss that with, how about that?
Okay, well,
Because
that-
we've already contracted this then? Because you're saying web page hosting then was $200 a month?
Correct.
So we're paying, because then this isn't right then, this is,
Perhaps it's for 3 months if it's 200.
that's what I mean.
Ms. Newton, would you come to the podium, please?
Well, no, oh.
Well, she can answer.
Is-
Good morning, Yvonne.
Because this should go maybe to September 1st instead of August 1st,
Yeah,
shouldn't
Yvonne
it?
Newton from Lorain County Purchasing. Mr. Cordes is right. It's June and July that we already had service for, $200 a month for the web page. For the internet, don't quote me, I'm not sure exactly how much, but I believe it's $13.25. And we are into the month of August, and we do have that contract that ends December 31st, 2001.
So
we do
isn't
have a
right.
contract on both.
So this should say September 1st.
No, August 1st. We're in
Well, I
August
know,
2nd.
but the amounts are
Yeah,
equivalent
they're
to
for
3 months.
3 months, yes.
I believe
And the dates are dated.
that if we pull the actual paperwork, I do recollect 3 months. Madam Clerk, would you pull the actual requisition,
Oh, that's
please?
fine, I think, or is the way the contract's dated, are you saying that June 1st, July 1st, and August 1st? Is that how you're doing it? Because this makes it look like you're only paying for 60 days, not 90 days.
Now, what we did, what Mr. Cordes requested is just for us to put in a month-to-month until
Right.
we decide what we're going to do with those 2 contracts.
Okay.
But we've already used June and July, so we're into August, so that's why it's 3 months. We haven't taken it to the end of the year.
You're correct, Commissioner.
Do we
need-
host our
we need to
own
change that.
webpage, or can we?
So does that need to say July 1st?
I believe that's a
Well, it
question
should
for
be
Ms.
correct.
Cleveland.
It
The
is.
actual
Sure.
requisition.
3 months.
Let's take a look at the actual requisition.
Come up with issues now.
200 a month, 600, they changed it.
No, that's what the date though is for. That's for 3 months.
It says 3 months, but there's no date.
Yeah, no, it says date is July.
This one has June, July, and August on it.
Okay, June, July, and August, okay, I see.
Okay,
So as
so-
long as this is okay, then this,
Correct. The recap need...
I divided it by 2 months instead of 3, and that's
3.
why I thought it was a little steep.
Right. The actual requisition is the
That's
governing
right.
document.
Okay, so we're okay then.
Right.
Then I won't, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Sorry for the confusion, Commissioner.
Yes, I have that. I'd like to know if we can host our own webpage. Karen, can you answer that?
Well, I think that, excuse me, Madam Commissioner, I think that's a subject for item number 10.
All right.
Okay, I think that this is
Well, I
the
thought we
payment
were
of-
talking about 10.
No, not yet.
No.
I just
No,
wondered if
we-
I should wait,
That
so-
was his question, and I believe your question's been
Right.
answered, so I would like to proceed with this. And then under item number 10, we'll have a discussion, because I have some questions
Then
also.
I want to change my second to drop my exceptions then. And
Well, you
second the motion.
seconded it.
With,
All right.
I second it with my
With exceptions,
exception. I
okay.
would like to withdraw it and then just second your motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any other requisition questions then? There's been a motion to approve and second. If not, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
I do have another question. There was $150,000 on there for the transit for 1 month. Is this a typo?
No, it's not 1 month, it's 2 months.
For 2-month service, $150,000?
Yes, it's a contract that was in there, if you'd like to pull that.
No, I understand. I don't care if it's 1 month or 2 month, but $150,000, I thought it was kind of steep.
Well,
And I wondered, is that a typo?
no, it's $75,000 a month according to the paperwork.
Well, that's great. If they can use the transit for $75,000 a month, I think that's great.
Okay?
Aye.
Travel expenses?
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Approving bills for payment.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
I'd like to authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary for employees within the jurisdiction of the Lorain County Commissioners. I do understand that we are not scheduled for an executive session this morning unless...
The Human Resources Director has not asked for one. Mr. Cordes,
I
are
will-
you asking for one?
Well, I was going to do it under my business, but yes, I'm going to request an executive session for, not to usurp Jerry, but for a matter of litigation.
Litigation, okay. So
But not for personnel, we're down.
personnel or new hires or disciplinary action will not be part of our executive session then?
That's
Okay?
my understanding at this time.
Thank you. I'll move for approval of item number 9.
I'll second.
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Approve and enter into a 2-year service agreement with First Communications of Akron, Ohio to provide the county's internet access and email accounts. The total monthly charge is $1,055.43 and contains a 30-day cancellation clause. I need to authorize the president to execute on behalf of the board.
Apparently, this is an item we want to have some discussion about. And my question is, and I'm sure you each have questions of your own, but this is First Communications from Akron. Could not our local telephone company provide this service as well? We talk about doing business with local vendors, so that's my question.
I have asked Ms. Plavin to come to the mic, and would you address that for us, please?
Thank you. Good morning, Karen Freeman.
please?
The recommendation, as it appears on item number 10, is for us to enter into a 2-year service agreement with First Communications of Akron. And my question is, could not Alltel, our local telephone company, provide the same service?
Yes, they can, Commissioner. However, what we're looking at here is going into eliminating the third party. We're going into a Tier 1 T1 line, which means we're eliminating the middle person. Alltel would be like an internet service provider. We're going to be our own provider. We stand to save thousands of dollars, and it builds up as time goes on with the amount of money we're saving. Just looking at the monthly charge compared to what we're paying today is considerably a good savings. Going with this method, we will be hosting our website here on site. In addition, we'll be doing our own email. The way it stands now, we have email going from here to the internet service provider and out to the internet. When we receive email, it comes from the internet to the service provider back to here. It's a simplified way of explaining. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's the best I can explain for everyone to understand. Going in that way, you can understand why there's so many problems. I mean, it's going through many steps. What we're doing right now is we would like to go directly from here to the internet. No middleman, we're going directly to the pot.
Okay. On the requisitions, we approved a web hosting fee, so you're telling me we're not going to have that expense anymore?
Right. Well, it depends on who the web hosting is for.
Are we going to have, right here, we have a bill for $200 a month for web hosting that we're paying.
Right, that will eventually be eliminated.
Eventually? I mean,
As soon as we get it up and running.
okay. Now, are we going to have software, are we going to have to purchase software and servers to host our own
No,
web?
we're going to use the existing Exchange server to house our commissioner's website and to do our email.
And who's going to manage and support this, since we're going to be hosting and managing this ourselves?
Well, the same as it is. I mean, the way it is right now, we had purchasing, managing the website and updating it, and with the support was the ISP. Well, now we have, we're going to have it in-house where I'm going to be the support person, and I'll probably be the one managing it. It's up to the commissioners who they want to manage it.
So are we going to have to buy more software and servers to do this, to manage this ourselves? Yes or no? That's all I'm
No.
looking for. We're not going to have to?
No, not at this time.
So how much, I mean, do we have a server to manage this, I guess, is my
Yes, we
question?
do.
We do? Do we have an extra server to manage this?
We have the Exchange server.
The Exchange server?
The very server that's serving our inter-office email will be the server to handle it.
Okay, and the contract here says a 30-day cancellation clause, but according to the contract, I read that we also have to pay for the full 24 months of the expenses that these people are giving us this discount, that we have to continue the paying their costs for setting this up. That's how I read the contract, unless there's another one.
I don't know which part are you looking
I
at.
was looking at the third paragraph, or the second paragraph, termination. Basically says we have to pay it no matter.
There
I mean,
was-
the illusion of a 30-day cancellation clause isn't, to me, that looks like an illusion. I think we're locked in for 2 years, the way I read it. And we can cancel within 30 days, we still gotta pay, the way this is worded.
I have Mr. Vestix, he's the First Communications representative.
Termination
He's here
charge
with
equal to the
me,
monthly
and if you
record charge.
would like to address him with this.
Did you hear Karen?
Yes, I heard it.
Do you,
No, I was asking about the second paragraph.
Jerry, have you
And I
seen this
see-
contract?
Probably have, but I don't recall it.
Could you,
Well, no, I just
share
don't-
that? Well, I'd like Jerry to look at
Okay,
it. I
sure.
mean, if that's the,
Yeah, I just thought, I mean, to look at a resolution, make it look like we can walk away in 30 days, and then to have that clause in there, I just want to make sure the board understands that we're going to have cost.
And what's the cost going to be?
Yeah, it's not in there.
I know the contract has been rewritten. I believe Mr. Cortez brought something to our attention.
There were some issues with the contract. For clarification, it did go down to the prosecutor's office for a review. There was some issues that needed to be changed. We did negotiate some changes to the contract. I do agree with Mr. Moore, though, that the contract does lock us in for 24 months. I think that we would still have to pay even if we canceled the contract.
How much longer?
Guess it depends on when we cancel.
Well, what's the date on that?
Well, there's no effective date because we haven't passed on it yet.
My reading of this is that it's a straightforward 2-year contract. I don't see,
But when did it begin, Jerry?
That hasn't.
I don't see any reference to a 30-day term. There's
You can
a
cancel.
reference here about curing a breach in
Right.
30 days. The way I'm reading this is a straight 2-year contract.
Shouldn't
I
we
guess,
have the county administrator negotiate and then come back to us with this? Or have we done at the negotiation? I don't mean to cut you off, Jim. but-
That's okay. I'm capable of doing that. If that's your desire, I certainly can do that. I think what Mr. Moore was addressing was the fact if we did in fact cancel the contract, forget the 30 days for a moment, that we would be, it looks like there's some liquid damages there.
Right, that what they've done is they've included in the contract what the damages would be if we terminated.
Correct, which would be the remainder of the contract to be paid out. So
so in other
his
words, there
position
wouldn't
is
be any,
correct.
any benefit to us to cancel a contract or
Right.
something that we're still going to have to pay for.
Absolutely.
I believe this needs a little bit more work. Can we
I
hold
agree.
this?
I'd like to until,
And I'd also like a little bit more information. I appreciate the comment that you made to me, Karen, about Altel, but I'd also like some information, if Altel were the provider of this service, what would that turn out to in dollars and cents, and what would be the advantages and the disadvantages?
Okay. I do have some figures from Altel, but I was looking in this direction because I was hoping we can be our own ISP.
And
Oh,
and
that's
I
fine,
appreciate
yeah.
that. Okay? So, is that okay if we hold that and
That's
have
fine.
the administrator
Can I
do a
see
little
that,
bit more?
ma'am?
I'm sorry.
that's going to come back anyway.
Okay?
While the company's representative is here, do you have any questions? Or do you wish them to come back at a future date?
Would you like to talk about your company? Maybe give us a little history of...
I thought maybe we can get past that, so...
No, I mean, that's if the board wishes.
It's just such a suggestion, not...
My name
Or at
is
least
Mike.
introduce yourself.
My name is Michael Vic-Bastix. I'm with First Communications. We're an Akron-based, switch-based carrier. We've been in business for 15 years. Started out that long ago with building on associations. And one of the associations that we have currently is the council, the Ohio, what do we call it? Ohio Commissioners Council. We're an association member, and they also have benefits that are given from First Communications to them. In terms of the agreement, what you see in here, it's a standard contract. What we do is we're waiving installation charges that would come from Altel. And in order to do that, we need some sort of security for the pricing to be in a two-year term or one-year term or a three-year term. Karen and I had agreed on a 2-year term. This could either go month to month or 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. The language in the contract, we've kind of manipulated a little bit already, but if you need further, adjustments in there, that's something we can do.
Yeah. No, my question was really basic. It's like the resolution said we had a 30-day cancellation clause, in which we didn't with the contract, and so there seemed to be just some issues. So it's no need to sit here and hash out a contract
Right,
now. We can at
exactly.
least work with Karen and
Sure.
Jim and come back next week. I just thought since you came out from Akron.
Sure.
And visited our lovely city. Thank you.
And do you have those, can we get, and you're working on that with Altel, could you see what the costs are and what they're waiving? And then we can analyze that to make sure that,
Okay?
thank you.
So we
Thank
have a
Yeah,
little bit
I think
more.
one further thing, if I may amplify, what we really need is cost justification on the savings. That
Yeah,
is, Karen mentioned significant savings, and I'm sure she's researched that, but maybe you could provide, look at what we're doing now and look at what your company does and the cost of that service, and then provide us a cost-benefit analysis to go with your company. That would certainly give us
And
something to look at.
I just want to ensure, and also ensure that we don't have to spend any more money on servers, that our servers can handle what we're going to be doing, and we don't need any more software that we're going to be spending, as long as there's no other costs that might pop up. I didn't mean to mess you up there.
Okay?
I mean,
so
we'll work with
all
you.
set? Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out.
Madam Clerk, item number 11.
Approve and enter into contract between the Lorain County Department of Job and Family Services and Workforce Institute of Lorain County, effective retroactive to July 1st, 2001 through June 30th, 2002. The total value of said contract shall not exceed $178,500 and will be for the purchase of core services, system overseeing and guidance, system building, evaluation, and continuous improved services at the employment network, and we authorize the President to execute on behalf of the Board.
Also move.
No, second?
Any discussion?
Yes. I received an email, and I passed it out to the board.
I got one too.
Someone questioned, did you get one too? Yeah, questioning about how this was awarded, bypassing the bid process. There was a name on there, but it doesn't say what agency that person's from.
Right.
So I think we emailed back, and we haven't received a response yet.
Email back to who? Matt?
This person that sent the email.
Try to find
We
who they
questioning
were.
what agency they were from.
Well, but the issue remains, the question is raised. Do we want to address that question?
I think we should.
Is there someone here from the, or Mr. Cortez, can you speak to the
Someone's
issue?
here, I think.
Is there
I see.
someone here from, yes. Would you come to the microphone, please, then state your name?
Hi, good morning. Peggy Thorpe, Thorpe. I'm from Job and Family Services. It's my understanding that the Workforce Institute has been named the operator for the One Stop at the Employment Network, and also that we received an opinion from Mr. Innes stating that since they were named the operator, they were the sole source provider for that service. Therefore, there is no need to provide a bid for that.
Is that an accurate summation, Jerry?
That's correct.
Okay, so then in other words, the answer, then it did not need to be bid,
That's correct.
so that's the answer to this email based on the opinion from the prosecutor's office. Okay? So, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Thank you, Peggy.
Issue notice to proceed letters to Crossroads Asphalt Recycling of Columbia Station for the Hot Applied Crack Seal 2001 program, and to Smith Paving and Excavating Incorporated in the City of Avon Lake, Ohio, for the 2000 handicap curb ramps, City of Avon Lake. That's a community development block grant project. Both are effective August 6, 2001.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
To sending an opposition letter to the United States President, House of Representatives, and the Senate expressing a rescission of funds from the fiscal year 2001 Workforce Investment Act appropriation. The availability of these program dollars help the unemployed and underemployed workers obtain gainful employment.
So moved.
I'll second. Maybe we want to have a little discussion on this. This is an active and fluid item. Bill Ogle is here from ETA.
Where is Bill?
That's right there.
Would you like to address this, Bill? I mean, I don't know what the status of this is today, but apparently one branch of the House put it in and another branch took it out or something like that. So it's in conference committee, correct?
That's correct. Bill Ogle, Lorain County ETA. As a matter of fact, I received a fax this morning from National Association of Workforce Boards addressing this very issue on the rescission of WIA dollars. It's going to affect primarily the dislocated worker grants that we're receiving. No amounts have been bandied about 200 million, 300 million, but it hasn't been decided upon yet. We don't know how it's going to affect the state of Ohio, so we're really in a state of limbo here.
Okay, so I guess that's the reason why we're going to send a letter in
Yes, and I
opposition
appreciate
to...
that.
So, do you have any questions?
Shirley.
Good morning, Shirley Johnson.
Sorry, Shirley R. Johnson, Oberlin. The way it's stated here, you're expressing a rescission. I assume you mean you're expressing an objection to the rescission.
I was just going to bring that up. I thought the same thing.
It doesn't make sense as it's written now.
Right.
And you're absolutely correct. In the fine work of preparing a letter, I'm sure the clerk would add the proper wording.
Yes.
Unless you want to make it part of your motion right now.
Yes, I will. That includes
Expressing opposition to the
opposition to
rescission.
the
Okay.
rescission.
And I'll agree with that as the second.
Okay. Mrs.
Any other
Vacy?
discussion?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Aye with the amendment.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mrs. Blair? Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Okay. I'd to approve and enter into proposal from Shopping Center Maintenance Incorporated, 1141 Lowell Street, Elyria, Ohio, on behalf of Lorain County Department of Job and Family Services to provide sweeping of their parking lots. The main lot off North Ridge Road would be swept every month at a cost of $55. The parking lot off Lake Avenue and the side lot by the loading deck would be swept every other month at a cost of $65. This agreement is for 1 year, effective August 1st, 2001 through July 31st, 2002, and can be renewed at the same terms at the agreement of both parties and availability of funds.
And the funds, the source of funding would be Job and Family Services, correct? John?
Yes.
Thank you. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
I'd like to allocate the amount of $3,300 to the Lorain County Fair Board, it should say, as permitted, with the Ohio Revised Code Section 1711.01, 1711.03, and 1711.22. This allocation is spent as follows: $600 to the Senior Division, $500 to the Junior Fair, and $2,000 to the General Encouragement. A total of $27,037.68 was spent on the Junior Fair in the year 2000.
So moved.
Second, but I need to clarify, that $27,000 that was spent on the Junior Fair, where did that come from?
I would assume that came from the proceeds of the Fair Board.
I have not been able to answer that question yet, Commissioner Vacy. You did discuss that with me yesterday morning, and I don't have that information. I don't believe it originated with us. I think that's a total expenditure, but I have not been able to verify that position.
Okay, let me know when you find out.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
I'd like to authorize the following services to be purchased using the Lorain County Department of Job and Family Services for Child Care Quality Fund services for fiscal year 2002. These funds will be used to increase the skill level of child care providers by offering training and providing quality art experiences to children attending daycare centers. The first for the Child Care Resource Center, A, for Child Development Associate CDA training, $18,000. B, Health and Safety Training, $3,180. C, Continuing Education Training, $1,200. Second will be to Oberlin Early Childhood Center for the Kids Smart on Road Traveling Troop, $44,123. I'd like to authorize Mary Lugolsky, Director, to execute contracts on behalf of the Commissioners as needed with the County Prosecutor's approval as to form.
Also move.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
I'd like to approve and enter into a proposal on behalf of Lorain County Prosecutor's Office and Lexis Publishing of Rocky River, Ohio, for 1-year internet access for online research. The total monthly payment is $243, effective August 1st, 2001 through June 31st, 2002, with a 30-day cancellation clause. We need to authorize the President to execute on behalf of the Board.
So moved.
Second. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Discussion?
No, the source of funding for this will be out of the prosecutor's internet account. John, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
I'd like to approve and enter into grant agreement and funding application between the State of Ohio, Department of Youth Services, and Lorain County Board of Commissioners on behalf of Lorain County Juvenile Court in the amount of $449,007, effective retroactive to July 1st, 2001, ending June 30th, 2002.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Does this grant require a match?
Commissioner Moore asked me the same question prior to the meeting. My understanding of that issue, if it's not in this resolution, there is no match. So we're merely a conduit on the grant.
Okay.
Well, we can't match it without it being written here. So
Okay, that's
if
what I
it
wanted.
does require a match, we'll have to come back here and explain it.
Okay.
No match. Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
I'd like to instruct the clerk to advertise for bids for the furnishing of all labor, material, and equipment to complete the Lorain County Jail systems and equipment alterations located at 9896 Murray Ridge Road, Elyria, Ohio. A pre-bid meeting will be held at the jail facility on August 21st, 2001 at 10 a.m. and sealed bids will be received for the general contract work, the HVAC, plumbing, and mechanical work, electrical work, and electronic security systems contract work until 2 p.m. August 28th, 2001 in Lorain County Commissioners' Public Hearing Room.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion? Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Good morning, Sheriff. Did you want to comment on this? No. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to authorize reimbursement to Roger Urban in the amount of $350 as refund for application fee as part of the Coastal Erosion Loan Program. The application process has exceeded the time frame for which the entire loan process should have been proceeded. Mr. Urban has requested this reimbursement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
I'd like to authorize salary increase for the following personnel within the Lorain Municipal Court, effective retroactive to July 27, 2001. For Alex Jasinski Jr., Magistrate, the biweekly rate will increase from $797.56 to $861.30. And John Derifray, the bailiff, biweekly rate will increase from $615.75 to $647.23. And these rates reflect the county's two-fifths share.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
To award contract to Open Software Solutions Incorporated of Greensboro, North Carolina, in the amount of $222,298 for the purchase of computer-aided dispatch software and hardware, which includes installation, training, and ongoing maintenance for the Lorain County Sheriff's Department. This was the lowest and most responsive bid received, complying with specifications. Lorain County Sheriff has reviewed and recommends approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Now, and apparently the sheriff would like to speak, and Commissioner Moore has a question.
Good morning. Phil Stametti, Lorain County Sheriff. First of all, I'd like to say this is the last leg of our computerization program at the Sheriff's Office. We already have a jail management system that's computerized, a record management system that's computerized, and this would do our road patrol for the law enforcement division. Lieutenant Clinton Kendricks, who is my record room officer and also spearheads our computers at the department, has looked at 6 different bids that came in on this, and he has recommended OSSI. One of the big reasons is the jail management system, the record management system are also OSSI. And I had a big concern that this would interface and integrate when we're talking to each computer back and forth as far as who's got a warrant, who's got a record check. A lot of systems say they could do that, but I had a lot of questions, and they did not meet the bid specs. He went over these with a fine-tooth comb, and this system was recommended. I would like to publicly thank Commissioner Dave Moore for spearheading this operation, and also thank Commissioner Betty Blair and Mary Jo Vasey for providing the funding for this also.
You're welcome.
If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Now, this is just the main, is this just the main? Are you getting systems for the automobiles too with this price? Or are you
Yes, we're not getting them with this price. This is just actually for the radio room itself. I believe there's 4 stations that'll be in the radio room.
Okay. But this will help you get,
That's correct.
you'll be able to apply for
My
grants
goal
from
is to
here
get the
on out.
mobile data units, they call them, that are actually in the vehicles. And what we were going to try to do is obviously get a grant for that money, because I know Elyria Police got a grant to install them in all their vehicles, which they have right now.
Now, did that require any matching, do you think, or?
I really don't know that at this point, but we are going to explore that. Obviously, we'd like to get, a Byrne Memorial Grant or somewhere that would pay for all of it, if not
So,
most of it.
unlike construction deals or construction projects that we work on, this is a price. This is not going to be changing, do you think?
Well, the maintenance is not included in here, but we do have it set aside.
Yes, I believe when that $250,000 was set aside, that included like a
Okay,
maintenance
I
agreement that
think
we
you just
had.
saw where I was heading with that. I thought since there's an extra few bucks that we gave you, are you going to give that back, or are you going to use that for the maintenance?
I think that's why we went for the $250, because we said that
okay.
would be the problem with the cost.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, so, thank you. Good job.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
I'd like to re-advertise for bids for the Lorain County Department of Job and Family Services for an RFP for the the car insurance and individual development account. Published notice in the Chronicle Telegram and Morning Journal on August 3rd and 10th, 2001.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Is there a way, can we put a local preference on this also, or not? Are these dollars coming?
These dollars
from the state?
originate, well, the state funnels investment, a lot of them originate with federal dollars.
So we can't do that?
I would say about 95% comfortable saying that we can't.
Okay.
But I
Jerry's
can
looking,
verify.
smiling. I think he agrees with your legal opinion, Mr. Cordes.
I wasn't sure who was supposed to address that. I apologize.
No, I think it's great when two minds have the same response. So is that it, Jerry?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
I'd to authorize the Lorain County Workforce Investment Board to utilize Strive to facilitate the strategic planning process. Cost for these services will be $6,500 for 4 facilitated meetings, surveys, and strategic plan report.
And this is the recommendation of the Workforce Investment Board. I would so move.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yes. Is Bill still here? Bill, this will come out of the web money? This will be funded through web? Or WIA? Okay, thanks.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
I'd like to accept proposals submitted by Salvatore Consiglio, CPA Incorporated of North Royalton, Ohio, in the amount not to exceed $8,320 for various accounting services of the Lorain County Employment and Training Administration.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
I'd like to award the depository of public funds contracts as reviewed and recommended by the county treasurer for active deposits. For First Merit EST Bank, $92 million. Bank One of Cleveland, $92 million. National City Bank, $92 million. Lorain National Bank, $15 million. First Star, $20 million. And Fifth Third Bank, $92 million.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Excuse me, might I ask a question on this matter?
Good morning,
Before you
Elizabeth.
vote? Good morning. Elizabeth Rummix, RUMICS, Oberlin. I was very impressed and rather
concerned with the statement made at the end of the last meeting about, by the Lorain County Reinvestment Coalition, about whether or not First Merit had lived up to its promises in the Reinvestment Act. And I wonder if that statement had any, was considered at all in the input in awarding First Merit, again, $92 million, or whether there could be any investigation or safeguards put on it that the county money so invested is indeed being used as had been agreed to by First Merit.
2 weeks earlier than that, First Merit came and gave their report, which was also, I reviewed both reports.
And we have conflicting opinions
Yes,
here.
and that, basically that's what you have.
Mr. Ennis, would you like to speak to the issue of the propriety of us doing something of that nature? Of,
Well,
I mean, that was...
you know, as Mr. Moore has said, you mean doing an investigation?
Well,
I mean, if the
I
county
think the
wants to
suggestion
follow
was...
through and try and find out whether First Merit has fulfilled the terms of any agreement, sure, it's you know, you certainly have the prerogative to do that.
But my understanding is that agreement was signed in '99, and we're in the third year.
Right.
So there...
I mean, I guess for future reference is what we would be looking at.
I guess that I would like to say that this award has been made by the county treasurer, and I don't believe that, I can't speak for the treasurer, but I don't believe that he was privy to the comments that were made last week. I don't even know if he knows about the ongoing discussion. First Merit acts in a capacity for the investments that the treasurer does on behalf of the county, and they're a holding instrument too with our investment advisor, and we see their representative at our quarterly meetings, and there's always a good working relationship there with the functioning of the investment of the public's dollars. So while I believe you've raised a legitimate question, I also think that I will say again that there are conflicting viewpoints on what was reported last week. And as Commissioner Moore said, First Merit has been here also in the form of Norman Bliss and given a verbal report, which was followed by a printed report. And I'm not sure whose obligation it is to determine whether or not that bank is fulfilling the requirements of that obligation. Is that in fact our job, so to speak, Jerry? Do you know?
Yeah, I believe the county treasurer does most of the background information on that, and we can certainly contact him and generate some discussion. At this time, this is an ongoing thing, and we, you know, having gotten this information a week ago to, you know, undo these contracts on a week's notice.
Well, but again, my question is, who is the authority? Irrespective of this issue, the issue that was raised to us last week and that's been ongoing discussion, do the commissioners have authority in that?
No, ultimately we come and vote on it, so to the extent that we vote on it, we have some authority to...
We have the authority to put the money wherever we want.
Oh, I'm not making myself clear.
I think what Betty's trying to
That's not
say...
my question. I'm talking about the agreement that Grassroots Development worked out 3 years ago with the assistance of many people, and our community development department was involved in it, and we came on board, and that was to see that these monies would be spent in an appropriate manner. And that's my question. Who is the overseer of that agreement? I'll ask you this. Would you look into that?
Okay.
I don't think it's our position, though, to overlook every... That's a private group.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
It's not our place to look... If we look at everybody's agreements in this county...
I mean, I don't think it's not one of our direct contracts that we control and monitor.
Well, that was my question
Okay.
then. So what would be our authority to in fact interject something along those lines? So anyway, healthy discussion. I'm not sure you gotten an answer, but...
No, thank you. I appreciate what you said about the treasurer having prepared this and probably not having had any information about the statement last week.
I just don't think he did, and I didn't realize that this was going to appear on the agenda this week. I've not had a chance to speak to him about it, but I do know that he has had a very good working relationship with First Merit with respect to the functions that he provides for the county.
Yes, and I have great respect for the treasurer, but I think given the discrepancy between Mr. Bliss's presentation and the presentation last week, it would be sensible to have somebody or some group at least take a look at it, not necessarily to make any modification here, but to see where indeed is the situation.
And thank you, Elizabeth. And then Jerry will follow up and advise the commissioners what their legal responsibility is with respect to that agreement. Thank you, Jerry.
And I think we need to know whose responsibility it is to review the obligation. Is it?
No, it's not ours. It's a bank, a private entity. It was basically a group that was upset with the banks pulling out of town. They made a deal. That's between a grassroots organization and a private company.
But it's our $92 million going
Right.
into that
And I
bank
think-
that's...
But the individual came last week and says, "When's your next meeting? Because I will be there." That's what I got. So he will be. This individual will be participating in our discussions in the future. That's how I took the last meeting.
Well, I
He
think
asked
that
when
somebody
the
should...
next investment advisory committee meeting was. The investment advisory committee meets quarterly.
Right, and I think that's when you're going to see these two individuals at our meeting having a discussion.
And that leads back to my question to Mr. Innes. I think we need to know what the commissioner's responsibility is in this. We have, are we just a supporting mechanism through our community development department, or are we actually a decision maker in this? And whose ultimate responsibility it is to see that the contract in fact is adhered to. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Okay. Comments, Mr. Cortez?
I have one quick issue. Well, I doubt it's quick, but it's an issue. Yesterday, I believe you all received a copy of a letter from Mr. Crespo, Executive Director, Lorain County Children and Family First Council, requesting some funding. It's dated August 1st. In the body of that letter, it indicates to me that Mr. Crespo does not have enough money to meet payroll this August 10th, when the next payroll is due. I did leave a message last evening for Mr. Crespo to be here, and I don't see him.
So it can't be that big of an issue if he's not here.
I'm tempted to let this issue sit and do nothing, but because I'm very annoyed over this right now. But
I would
if-
suggest, excuse me, but
Yeah.
I would suggest that we cover enough to at least make payroll for the last 2 weeks.
Exactly, Commissioner. To do nothing probably wouldn't be doing my job. I'll have to deal with Mr. Crespo separately on this, but I would like to authorize Mr. Rocacy to prepare a transfer for your signature this afternoon of enough monies to keep that department moving to the next payroll period until we can get more information and have more time to make a better decision.
About
Commissioner
30
Moore?
days.
30 days? Would that be?
Well, we're going to
30 days
be
is
back
fine?
again. I'm just saying for the month of August. He's asking for the whole year here, so.
Okay, so
If
let
the
me...
budget director can come up with that actual amount is, I mean, is that okay with the board? 'Cause
I would
if
say
not,
for the month.
I don't want to come back with another emergency discussion.
Okay, so let me then request that you pass a resolution to fund the Lorain County Children and Family First Council for the next 30 days, and then we will return with additional data information and for you to make a further decision on.
I know in the past, the Family and Children's First Council had contributed, some of the other agencies contributed to keep this going, and I'm wondering if they wouldn't contribute, since that's what it's all about. It's the different agencies, and the funding goes back to the majority of these agencies.
I had that very same discussion with the director 2 weeks ago, and then, as you're aware, we did talk about staffing needs last week with the director, and we did discuss the potentiality of running out of funds if we added more staff, and it's less than a week later and we're out of money. And I got this yesterday, and I don't believe that we got a heads up that there was going to be an issue here.
Well, two things. Ask him you know, why as the executive director, he didn't know about his budget, and why he didn't know he didn't have enough money to pay himself. And number two, why he wasn't here to answer these questions. How's that? Could you get
And
those?
number 3, that he goes before the other agencies, before his board, and looks for funding before he comes back to us.
Well, I think it's time that I went before that board and also explained this board's position that they want to partner, but they don't want to become a charitable organization with the
Exactly.
general fund. So I think it's time we did that also. So I'll take care of that. I appreciate the board funding this for 30 days until I can get this issue straightened out.
And this may be something of an advanced nature, because he makes reference to the allowable administrative fees and their inability to draw them down. So if this is a temporary thing, we can just advance him the money
Well,
and
see, on
receive
the-
it back. Well, you need
The
to
last-
address that.
Well, we do, and for clarity, the general fund's already advanced this operation money in the past, and I've been talking to Mr. Rokasi. This was one of our management comments on our last audit on some of these advances. We're probably going to have to provide amnesty on that advance. There hasn't been much repayment over the years. Mr. Rokasi's here. He can speak to that issue better than myself, but we advance monies and we seldom get paid those monies back. So I don't believe that this is an advance. The drawdown on the TANF funds by some of the agencies that have been provided funds hasn't been sufficient enough to provide us enough administrative monies to pay salaries and benefits and expenses over there. That's, quite frankly, there's been an ongoing problem. It's improved somewhat over the last 3 years, but it hasn't improved to the degree where they're not going to require certain infusions of cash, and we're going to have to be prepared to do that, especially with the advent of getting additional grants that will provide some more stability in the administrative funding for staff, but it's not, I don't believe it's going to be sufficient to support this operation without some commitment by the general fund or by those entities that are on the council to make up shortfalls to keep this department running.
And that was his original request, was to become a general fund recipient.
That is correct.
But I've also asked him to give me 10 other counties to see what the percentage of their budget is funded by general fund money. So if he can give me 10 other counties and show the percentage of his budget that is actually funded by a general fund of those other 10 counties and see what the percentages are, then I was willing to look at it, but I'm a little miffed that he didn't even show up today, so we'll see.
Well, perhaps there's some
Maybe there's a
mitigating
reason. Yeah, maybe there's a
circumstances.
reason.
Usually there are, because
Okay.
Juan is usually pretty cooperative in responding to requests. So you've got some more work for us to do.
Yes, would you?
Yes, I will so move that we transfer sufficient funds for the payroll for the month of August for the Lorain County Children and Family First Council.
I'll second.
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Other items, Mr. Cordes?
Not today. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, Assistant County Prosecutor, Mr. Ennis?
Nothing other than I did want to have an executive session on a litigation issue.
Okay, Commissioner's report.
Commissioner
Yes,
Vacy?
I would like some discussion in regards to the administrative meetings. First of all, I want to thank the board for allowing me the time to think this over, but I totally agree with Commissioner Moore that the administrative meetings should be a part of the regular board meetings. And I thought, too, we used to have meetings 2 times a week, Tuesday and Thursday. And we've switched over, and now it's every 3rd Tuesday that we approve the child care payments. I'm thinking, why can't we go back to 2 days a week, and all the regular board business can be done on Thursday, and the administrative business on Tuesday, because there's just too much to do all in one day. If we were to
Oh, I
try and
agree.
do this all on a Thursday, it's just too much.
No, Tuesdays are fine. After spending all day Thursday here, it was...
It wasn't the newspapers
I know,
that got
no,
it,
it
though,
wasn't.
so
No,
what?
yeah, it was me.
No, I think it was all of us. I think it was a learning experience for us last week.
But, no, I had to cross off my little report here, so I'll just... 9:30 on Tuesdays is fine with me, unless you guys would like to go earlier.
Well, I was thinking to schedule special presentations, administrative sessions, personnel issues, and child care payments on Tuesday.
I'd rather just
No.
have our administrative sessions every Tuesday at 9:30. If Mr. Cordes can bring in outside people to speak, anybody or directors or as an information gathering method, that was my original thought.
I'm
I
not
didn't
sure.
interrupt you.
No, it's okay, I'm thinking, I'm listening to what you're
That's-
saying. I don't want I think it's good if we have our executive session meetings on Thursday,
Mhm.
when we have our regular board meetings, that way we can act when we're finished.
Right.
And I think that worked out pretty well last week, but I think that any administrative meeting that we have, I think that should be on Tuesday. And I don't necessarily know that we're going to meet every
Right.
Tuesday,
No,
because sometimes there are issues that we don't need to have a meeting on. So I guess I would like to have any administrative meetings that we have on Tuesday, but not every
sometimes-
Tuesday.
But at 9:30, and then if it's not in this room, we can move back to where we usually have them, because there's enough chairs for people to participate, because I think there are some activities on Tuesdays.
We,
Oh.
I'm
we
just saying
can,
that either way, as long as the public knows. And
we can leave the door open, as simple as that. I mean, if you want to feel more comfortable
But
in the
there's
back.
times when people want to come in and put a presentation on. And I think that if you put it on Thursday, sometimes it overpowers the schedule, especially if you have hearings and presentations and the regular board business. I think Tuesday, maybe we can have
No, I agree.
people that
Yeah.
want to put presentations on, come before the board on Tuesday, and then the hearing issues like abatements or annexations, whatever, then those should be kept to a Thursday meeting.
No, that's fine. Anybody on the outside, but I think it should go through Mr. Cortez to put on the agenda for that meeting. Even an informal agenda, Jim, if you want to just...
Okay, yeah, let's...
I don't want an agenda. to be
Okay,
honest
thank
with
you. My understanding is that we're not keeping an agenda.
Correct.
I say that because when the issue came up that we were keeping an agenda, then there was an issue of public access to that agenda. So we don't have an agenda per se. That's number one. Number two, this has been an issue. Who's going to decide when we need a meeting if it's not a every Tuesday meeting?
I think by not having a majority of the board there.
Because this has been a problem for us administratively. So if it's not a standard, as Ms. Vacy said, every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, every third Tuesday, how do we know when we're going to meet? Who is going to be responsible for establishing that meeting or requesting that meeting?
That information also has to go out to the public. I mean, they have to be informed in regards to when we have an open meeting. So we just can't say, cum sai. You
No.
just can't just say, I'm going to have a meeting next week. But the public has to be informed in
Well,
regards
I
to
think
when we
that,
schedule these meetings.
If we're going to do this on a Tuesday, we will on Thursday announce whether we're going to have a meeting the next Tuesday.
Mhm.
We will get orderly yet, even if it kills us.
Yep, and then I think under Mr. Cortez's comments every week, he could say, I would like to have an administrative session on the following Tuesday.
Sure, no problem.
So then-
That still doesn't really...
Well, that's step one.
Let's give it a try.
That's step one.
Okay.
No, don't you think that's step one? Now
Yes,
we
sir,
have-
I do.
Okay, now step two is, what's the issue? What's your issue?
No, I'm
seem a little tight.
completely comfortable.
No, you're not. What are you afraid of, the agendas? I mean, you're going to say in a public meeting, look, I'd like to talk about this, this, and this. Next Tuesday at administrative session, can the board attend?
Certainly.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at. I mean,
Okay, let's give it a try.
Okay.
We'll see how it works, and if that presents us with some difficulties, we'll move forward from there.
I was just going to comment, if you want to avoid having to do all the publications and notices to everybody that you need to do, you can just set a rule that we're going to have these meetings every Tuesday morning, and let everybody know ahead of time,
Whether or not
if we
we-
decide there's nothing to be done, we just won't have them, but they're scheduled. Just because you schedule a meeting doesn't mean you have to have it.
That's the easiest
Okay, but
path,
I guess
right?
I thought if we scheduled it, that meant that it was a standing meeting, and
Well, I'm
That's what he said.
still a
That's what
little
you just said,
confused
isn't
as to
it?
whether that's what you are intending on doing.
No, that's what you just said. You said we don't have to publish it if we make a motion to schedule this every
Yeah, if
Tuesday
you
at
pass a
9:30.
resolution saying, we're going to have
Our administrative session.
our administrative sessions every Tuesday morning at 9:30, that doesn't mean you have to have them, it means you can have them.
Right. And we don't have to keep publishing in the paper.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's my understanding.
so my understanding of this, because I'm still a little unclear, is that if your staff believes that they need an administrative session with the board, will request one. What if a commissioner wants an administrative session?
Then that comes out of the Thursday meeting.
So that would come from each individual commissioner
Right.
if they wanted to meet. Am I okay with that so far?
Yeah.
Well, what would be wrong with us communicating with you, the administrator?
I'm trying to avoid that.
Oh, I guess I noticed
Okay, yeah.
that.
I'm still trying to figure out why he's all nervous on this.
Well,
Nice and
all right,
relaxed.
let's go there for a moment. Just because maybe one commissioner wants to meet administratively, then the other two beat me up because they don't want to.
We don't beat you
All
up.
right,
No, we just don't
so
show off.
I don't particularly want to be the whipping post for that issue.
But that's
all
your
right?
job.
You're that. We pay you to be
We
that.
love you for it.
We get that song tied to the whipping post for him.
I will offer, for the sake of cooperation, that I think that if the county administrator or your staff request to meet with the board, that I be the focal point for your staff. I think that if an individual commissioner feels that an administrative session is necessary, that commissioner should deal with that issue themselves at the meeting and during their comments.
Right.
On Thursday?
Yes.
For the next Tuesday?
Yes.
That sounds pretty
Well, that's,
good.
yeah.
So I will
That-
coordinate your
that's a great-
staff
that's
and you will
that's
coordinate yourself.
That's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Is that agreeable with everyone?
Yeah, but I've never seen a guy run so fast.
Okay, so then,
So do we make a motion?
yes,
like
I
that?
think we should have
Oh,
a
wait a
motion.
minute,
if
I have
that's-
another question here.
We don't
It
know
was
what the
my
motion's gonna be yet.
understanding last week that you said that you didn't feel that the public should speak at the meeting.
No, I said that, yeah. No, what I said.
Well, I take issue with
I said that, but come on, I was a little angry, I was emotional, I needed a hug, I didn't get one.
You aren't getting one today
And
either.
I apologize for making that statement, I do apologize, I'm sorry.
Are you taking it back and the public can speak? Because as a representative, I want to hear from them.
Well, let me tell you, I do want to hear from people, and I apologize the way that came across, that was really bad. I'm surprised my friends in the front row did not hurt me worse
They
than what
brought
they did.
their rotten
I know, I
tomatoes
saw
today.
that. No, my concern was, what I was trying to say is, I'd like to hear from kind of like the same format we have, which is after we are done, have them come up during the discussion period and give them their input, which is a lot better than having them sit up here with us in a round table going back and forth.
Right.
You know, my thing is, as long as it's an organized format, where we're like talking like we are right now, and then someone stands up like, I would like to talk about this issue, and then as long as it's in an organized format where they're not, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, I was under the impression that you were afraid that it was going to be too lengthy and that there would be discussion back and forth. And in that case, then just allow 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you think it
Yeah, if we
takes
have a,
to shorten the schedule. But
well,
I
Bob's
do
gonna
want to
be
hear
there, we're
from
gonna
the
need a little
public.
bell.
Well, see, I think that there's some misinterpretation of what, if we went into an administrative session, what we're going to do. We're not really going to have a tremendous amount of dialogue for a decision-making point. That would be, we want to inform you. For instance, as a suggestion, possibly I may want to inform you of the progress on the Justice Center and where we are on that schedule. You may have some questions, but there will be no decisions that need to be made there. I think we were trying to avoid some hot debate of the effectiveness of that schedule with the public and so forth. I think their time for that would be here, when you're making decisions to
Yeah,
tell
but
you.
on the other hand, they may have some insight or some knowledge in regards to something we're discussing.
Okay.
And let's face it, we don't know all things and everything. So somebody may have more knowledge on an issue than what we have, and I'd like to hear their input, their comments, their questions.
I'm sure if we're going to be talking about sewers, we're going to have a lot of people that participate. So that's the kind of stuff, as long as it's in an organized fashion, I'm open to it.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay?
So now, Jerry, what would you like to say?
Well, I'm probably going to complicate things, but can I clarify, are we going to do these as informational administrative sessions, which you're just going to open to the public, or are you going to have these be formal commissioner meetings?
My preference would be an administrative work session.
But if they're open meetings, aren't they formal meetings?
Well, if no.
And there won't be minutes of them either.
That's what I'm getting at.
This
If
is
you
not-
make them, if you make them formal meetings, then there's going to have to be minutes and
I
all that
was
stuff.
questioning that too. I wondered
But
if
keep in mind, if,
how can you have a meeting without minutes? I think you have to.
well, because if you're going to be making decisions and discussing merits, then it's a meeting. If you're just going to use it as informational gathering, that you're opening to the public.
I think you discuss merits when, even though you're talking to an individual, and and I always have questions, and that's discussion on the merits of the issue. So I think, in my opinion, it almost has to be an open, regular meeting. The only thing I would say that we're doing is splitting the meeting up, and all your regular board business is going to be on Thursday, and just keep this, simplify this one to administrative issues.
Well,
Nice long
that's very
pause.
interesting.
I thought about this as the what'd you say? Informative,
Informational.
informational.
It's an
And the
administrative
public can
meeting.
participate, they can watch us, and I don't see anything too
I'm just
difficult in
questioning
that.
if it's against the sunshine law. I mean, if it's an open meeting.
No, if it's open meeting, all we're doing is doing what we've always done. We're inviting the public to watch and now, participate if they wish. I don't see, did we keep meetings before, or minutes before?
No.
You guys kept meeting minutes and less. So the only difference here is we're opening the doors, so.
As of this year,
Mhm.
when the clerk had an agenda, which we're not having anymore, she outlined the issues, said we met,
Mhm.
and no action was taken, and then it was part of the record.
What about
Okay.
the third Tuesday of the month when we meet to approve the child care payments? Do you keep minutes?
Oh, just,
That's a
Then we
motion to
open-
approve, open the
Mhm.
meeting officially, approve the action, and then we move to adjourn.
Well, we'll still be doing that on Thursday. On the third Thursday, we'll still be approving the child care minutes.
Mhm.
Third Tuesday.
So the third Tuesday will be an open meeting, and the rest of them will be, I don't understand that. Okay. Anything, maybe she can clarify something. She's got the book in her hand.
Well, with all due respect, and I appreciate Shirley, she is not our legal counsel. Would you like to have a comment, Shirley?
Yes, I would. Shirley R. Johnson Oberlin, and I don't have a legal opinion, and I hate to disagree with your representative from the prosecutor's office, as the newspaper has. I think that there is some difficulty and difference of opinion regarding what the so-called administrative sessions are. They are not listed in the open meeting law as and any of the pages that I've seen. What they say is that any meeting other than a regular meeting is a special meeting. And there are such things as study meetings, I gather. And so it seems, when Mr. Innes suggests that you need to pass a resolution to regularize what you're going to do, I think that's a good idea. I'm not prepared to make any comments about whether there is such thing as an administrative meeting or not. I haven't consulted my attorney about it. But, well, my organization's attorney. But I think there is so much confusion about whether an administrative meeting actually exists and is legal, and the terms that you're discussing it, I think you need to look into further. I think it's an excellent idea that you're going to have, whatever it is that you call it, a regular meeting of some nature, and that you open it to the public, and that you do allow some kind of comment or additional information if people that come to your meeting have any to offer. But it's really, as I said several weeks ago when this whole thing came up, it's a very confusing area, and there are many different opinions on it. But I think you're moving in the right direction, at least to make them public and with some possibility of public input.
I think Jerry
Thank you.
has. Thank you, Shirley. Jerry, you have a comment?
Commissioner, I would just note that, what I wrote in my opinion was probably 80% of it a summary of, I think, a dozen or more court cases. So it was a summary of what the courts have said. And I welcomed the Chronicle-Telegram to have their expert who disagrees with me to send me a court decision that says something different. And I am more than open to looking at a court decision. But what you have before you is what courts of law have said, not what I say or the Chronicle-Telegram or some other lawyer out there. You have 12 to 14 cases of what courts have ruled. And I am more than open to seeing another court decision that says something different than what I said.
And thank you, Jerry. And I'm not willing to meet twice a week in formal sessions like we did when I first came here in 1991. I think it's inefficient to have the clerk preparing for 2 meetings a week, and they're trying to get information ready for a meeting, and they're trying to type minutes from a meeting, and I think that that's very inefficient. So I like the 1 official meeting per week. I like the concept of meeting on Tuesdays if there's any need for us to do that, to be advised of what's going on, and I will accept the concept that this should be done publicly. But I'm not willing to have 2 official, regular meetings in 1 week. I think it's
Okay.
a waste of time.
Well, I support that, if that's what you made as a motion.
Well, I think it's basically the same thing as what we're discussing. The only thing
Yeah.
is you're saying that you don't want to keep the minutes. But it's basically the same thing.
No, it's not going to be formal like this, though.
Yeah,
We're
I'll-
not going to sit up here.
No,
We're
I don't like sitting up here in the first place. I would rather be down there. But since we're up here,
Well, we're all in agreement. We're all in agreement, we're going to meet. We're all in agreement, it's going to be public. I don't think we need to do minutes. I mean, basically, I want to continue what we have been doing, as the assistant prosecutor's told us, and just open the doors. It takes a cloud of doubt out. We haven't kept minutes in the past. There's no need to do this, so the agenda issue, we don't need to have an agenda as long as Mr. Cordez in public session says, hey, I need to meet next Tuesday. Anybody would like to participate? This is what we're talking about. The commissioners need to get information regarding this, this, and this. We have our meeting at 9:30. Or he'll come up and say there won't be a meeting next Tuesday because no directors or anybody would like to talk to us. That's how I see it.
are you saying that you're going to, we're scheduling the meetings now for Thursday unless we
No.
decide not to have one, and then Jim will announce we will not?
Yeah, every Tuesday, 9:30, we're going to have, which is what we had in the past. Not Thursday, but every Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It's just an informal meeting.
I understood
Information.
that we weren't scheduling them and that I was going to ask from you.
No.
I
I think what Jerry said was that we should pass a resolution, so we don't have to advertise in the paper for the meeting, just, is that right?
Schedule them every
I think
Tuesday.
Yeah, they're every Tuesday.
Schedule them that way.
Today on.
That way, there's no
Right.
problem with somebody saying, I didn't know about this.
Right,
or
and then it's like we don't
and
show
then
up,
if you
we don't
just
show up.
don't have them, you don't have them.
All right. That's
I don't
the
like
easy-
that aspect of
No,
it, but I
we
will
have to-
agree to it if that's what,
Oh.
that will avoid having unnecessary communication
Right.
with the clerk and people who are calling. But
Right.
there's going to be, I don't think we're going to be doing this every Tuesday.
No, I think, I can see us doing it twice a month, but what if something comes up we need to meet before we have to vote next Thursday?
Well, do you want to just schedule them for twice a month? Try it like that? Because you're meeting already on Tuesday, the 3rd Tuesday, so just schedule them twice a month. Just schedule one other meeting in there on
How's
a
that
Tuesday.
grab you, Jim?
First and third? First Tuesday and the third Tuesday?
Whatever the desires of the board are, I'm fine.
Let's try that. First
Then
and
if you need
third.
another one, you'll announce it at the
Right.
Thursday meeting.
First
Right.
and third.
All right.
First and third.
I will
Okay,
be
Jerry.
prepared.
Now, the 3rd, we're going to have to keep minutes of at least the child care.
That's already being done, though, correct?
Right, you go into formal session, then you come out of that formal session and go into administrative session.
Okay.
So you do have to keep the child care.
And the
minutes.
public will be allowed to speak.
Okay, let me, that's the prerogative of the board. Let me complicate the issue further.
Oh, please.
We're so close.
The 3rd Tuesday this month is Fair Week. Traditionally, this board hasn't met during Fair Week on those type of issues. So we already have a scheduling conflict.
But that's okay, when we have our meeting, you'll say that.
I will? Okay, yes, I will.
He's saying it right now.
I know.
I'm saying yes, I am. Thank
Every
you.
meeting, we talk about the fair.
So we're not
Well,
going
we're
to meet,
promoting attendance
we're not
at
going to
the
meet the
fair.
3rd Tuesday then,
So put
correct?
the child care payment on a Thursday, let's,
It's always a
because
first and a
otherwise it
third.
slows the payments down and we're going to have a lot of
Right, so
people
we need
that
to move
aren't
to the
happy.
Thursday before, if we can. And we can't cancel the board meeting that Thursday because there's, I believe, there's
John
education.
Rokas, he's having his budget hearing that day.
Budget hearings, okay. So there will be a Thursday board meeting, but there'll be no administrative session that week.
Okay, so then the first time we're going to do this administrative meeting is the first Tuesday in September. What is that date, Roxanne? First Tuesday in September?
Well, actually, the first Tuesday in August is next week.
Oh.
Do you need to meet with
No,
us?
what is today? Oh.
Okay, there we go. See how easy that
Labor
was?
Day is the 3rd, the 4th is the first Tuesday in September.
We said August, right?
I did say September, and
You
Jim
meant
talked
August,
about
7th.
August, but the first Tuesday is next week.
The 7th.
And
You
he
don't,
did- and he says
you
he
don't
doesn't
need a
need us.
meeting next?
No, I don't
So
desire a meeting
then
at this time.
I will move that we start meeting on the first, no,
Yeah.
we schedule administrative sessions for the first and third Tuesdays of the month, beginning September 4th
And please
At
include that the
9:30.
public will be
At
allowed
9:30?
to speak.
At 9:30?
Yes, at 9:30, first and third Tuesdays.
Second?
Does that include that the public's going to be allowed to speak?
No, I didn't think that needed to be part of the
Well,
motion.
I think for future,
I think that
we
will
may
be
not
up to
all
the
be
a board to determine at that point in time if they wish to take input from the public as we do here
Wait
now.
a minute, the board's going to determine at that time?
Yes, if there's somebody there and they want to speak, if the board wants to hear them, fine.
Can I ask another question, please? Since it's it's supposed to be an informational gathering meeting and it's an administrative meeting, it's formal, who's going to run the meeting?
President of the board.
Okay. I
There you
just
go.
trying to cover all contingencies here. I'm not trying to be difficult.
Yeah, you are.
So the president of the board will be responsible for the meeting then?
Correct.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Okay.
Well, if you're going to have public there and you're going to have some discussion, you do have to have somebody that's going to be able to control the flow of the meeting. And
Right.
normally those things have been kind of ad hoc, so it will be the responsibility of the president to at least preside over the meeting.
Right.
Okay.
And at that point, just like our meeting today, the president will say, was there any public input? And just like that.
Okay.
Okay? So-
Excuse me.
Yes, Elizabeth.
May I suggest in the matter of public discussion, Elizabeth Rumics, R-U-M-I-C-S, Oberlin, in the matter of public discussion, if there is public interruption in the course of the informational meetings, that the board consider itself able to rule out of order, and that most discussion, or comments, if any, might well come at the end of the meeting so as not to be too interruptive.
That's a
Is
good
that
suggestion.
possible
Yeah,
compromise?
I think we'll,
It's a work in progress.
we'll
I'd rather
start out and see how it
See how
goes.
it goes.
If it needs fine tuning, we can do
Yeah.
that. Okay?
Any more discussion?
Will you call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye, but I want it recorded that I want the public to speak,
I
to
think
be
I-
able
I
to
think-
speak.
I think everybody knows they're going to.
Well, I kind of figure if a newspaper editor can have an opinion that's going to influence thousands of people and never come to a meeting, that the public should at least be allowed to speak at a meeting.
Correct. I think they will.
Anything else, Commissioner Vacy?
That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Moore?
Yeah, just stole my thing on that one, so.
Oh, no, we still have another
We
issue
don't-
here.
we don't
the
wanna
minutes
talk
of the
about
meeting.
it again.
let me
Let's
say
get
what
the
I-
minutes of the meeting ready for the next meeting.
Well, let me.
Today's meeting should be ready.
Are you done?
Minutes should be ready for next week.
You said you were.
Okay, go for it.
Oh, thanks.
Go for it.
Okay, first of all, on our, oh boy, let me slow down here. On the agenda, I was working off an agenda that had 19 issues on it that we were going to vote on today. This morning I saw that we got one with 26. None of the agendas are numbered. I was wondering if we could get these agendas numbered so that I know which one I'm working off of. Mr. Cortez, could you?
We had a brief discussion ad hoc coming into the meeting this morning. Madam Clerk, what I want you to do from now on is I want you to number the drafts. I too have had a problem with multiple drafts up there. I go in, I saw Ms. Vacy earlier this week, and we were working off of two different documents, and we weren't aware that we were working off two different documents. If there's going to be multiple drafts, they need to be numbered draft 1, draft 2, draft A, draft B.
And can I get a final
whatever.
draft or something? Or
Right,
not even that,
then-
or just a final? 'Cause
Well,
when I get-
we won't know it's a final draft.
I'll just say like this.
All right, when it's done, it's
Yeah.
done, so there isn't really no final
Okay.
draft. So I think we just need the number. The agenda is the final draft, so it won't say draft on it,
Okay.
for clarification. So will you start numbering the drafts? Because sometimes we don't get to them, and then we start working on it, and you get further through your mail, and you find a new one.
But a lot of issues that might fix the minutes that we're having problems with is if our directors could start preparing the resolutions for us that they want. I mean, whether it's directors or whether it's the departments that are requesting the funds. I think that's what's delaying our minutes, wouldn't you think, being prepared on a weekly
And
basis? Because you have to,
That's one
Okay.
thing that, that delays the minutes also, is when we have a lot of public comment or a lot of discussion, we do try to transcribe as much as we can, not verbatim, but as much as we can get in there, and that takes a lot of time to.
And we're required
Go
by
back and
law
transcribe.
to do that, so it's this substantive data that the decision was predicated upon.
so what's the best way to get our minutes so that...
Okay, couple things have come up with all three commissioners over the last few weeks. Let's take a couple in order. First was that the resolutions are not prepared prior to the meeting, so you're not 100% clear on the exact wording that you're asked to vote on. Some of that issue can be addressed by having people that want issues put on the agenda, and they come from all over the county, to prepare draft resolutions of their issue, provide us that draft resolution and a disk for the computer, so we don't have to retype that data, so that Ms. Boyer can modify the resolution a bit if it needs some stroking to meet our needs. We can require that before we'll agenda an item, and I think we should. When I was, prior to returning to the county, when I was employed in Lake County, we had to present things to our clerk of the board there in resolution format. They changed a little bit, but not much, and this way most of the work was done. I would suggest that we probably would have to have training a bit. Roxanne would have to do some training with the departments on how to structure those things, but it's not overly complicated. This way you'll be getting the resolutions in your board packet as it comes around, and you'll be able to see the exact wording on most issues. They're going to be those last-minute issues. Obviously, they're going to fall out.
Well, that help you out? And that will speed up us?
What about requesting this at least 1 week prior to the meeting?
I believe that we could do that also, recognizing that we've imposed some timeframes on ourselves before, only to find that because the business of government tends to be so complicated at times that we've had to go against our own rules, but we could try to do that. I think we should...
If there's an emergency, I can understand that, but just like the issue with Juan today, giving it to us yesterday to vote on it today when we can't research anything, and I find this happening all the time. I've had a problem with this since I've been up here. And the minutes, and I've had a problem with that, and Roxy knows that we've talked about it several times. Roxy tells me that like contracts that have to be approved by the prosecutor's office are not submitted, are not given enough time to be approved and put on the agenda. So therefore, I'm thinking, well, I'm approving a contract that I haven't really seen.
Commissioner, I can resolve these problems for you very easily, but it's not going to make people very happy. Now,
I can't help that.
I understand that. I have no problem going out there and sending stuff back. All right, we've clarified a lot of issues in purchasing already. We've taken some strong stance there, and you can see the results of those issues. The packages are much better. They have much more information, and they're much clearer, and we're not getting as much tripe and misleading information. But you're going to have some heartburn from people out there if we do this. Now, if you want to do it, I will certainly enforce the board's will. That is, I will send stuff back rather than agendaing it, but you're going to hear people, they're going to call you. They're going to go around me, they're going to call you, you're going to say, I have to have this, and they're going to have 9,000 reasons why they have to have it.
Well, they should have thought in advance that they need it.
I'm completely supportive of your position. I just recognizing that.
Well, I need to be clear on this, because I know the engineer's office sends us a letter recommending award of a contract. That contract is not prepared until after we approve their recommendation. Now, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Well,
as far as I'm concerned, our action approves that, then it makes that official. But it would be ridiculous for them to prepare all the paperwork before we actually take action.
Wait, let me interrupt here. My understanding was, all I'm looking for is that the clerk has a resolution that's prepared so that she doesn't have to make sure it's worded properly. All this other stuff is getting it like the open meeting or discussion we just had.
Yes, but
I'm trying to simplify it so that we can get our minutes done on a weekly basis, so that's all I'm trying to do here.
Okay, Ms. Basie has a issue that's tertiary to this,
okay,
which is we prepared a resolution and it may say to enter in a contract with XYZ company. She has discussed with me on multiple occasions the fact that she's not comfortable with entering into that contract until it's been approved to as to form or possibly content by the prosecutor's office, and we routinely approve contracts with knowledge, or at least with the statement that it's going to be approved, or predicated upon that approval, and she would like to have that approval before that issue becomes for a vote. Am I stating your position correct, Ms. Basie?
I would like to, but if it's impossible, then we have the wording that upon the approval of the prosecutor's office, but as long as everything is prepared and we can have the minutes, because there was times when our minutes were like a year behind, and I couldn't remember next month what I did last month. So how am I going to remember what I did a year ago? I would like those minutes prepared for and the law states that that's the way it should be. The minutes from the previous meeting should be approved at the following meeting.
Okay, does this fix this problem?
Well, the resolution helps. That's
Okay,
step
step one. Can we work this, can this be a work on, like
Yes.
a work in progress? And
We have lots of those.
I know we do. That's what,
The,
Jim's so bored up there.
No, he only has to work 36 hours instead of 24 every day.
The second issue that we could do is, a lot of times we don't understand where the funding source is for a particular item in
Correct.
board
Well, let me
business.
check that out then, since I didn't know this was a Cortez report, but.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
And I will point out that you know, all the commissions over time have discussed these issues, and
Right.
most recently Commissioner Moore and had some issues with this too, and Ms. Vacy earlier in the week. I think we should identify the funding source in the agenda and in the resolution.
John's nodding his head, so.
John, you comfortable with that, John?
Yeah, very much.
So everything we're voting on, we'll know exactly where that money's coming from?
If approved.
If approved.
Very helpful.
Is that very difficult to do?
No, because the requirement's going to be put on the people who want to agenda an item
Thank
to
you.
inform us of the funding source.
Okay, fine, then, do you need a resolution for this,
No.
or just
No.
the
Oh, you got
direction?
more items there you were going to tell us so that we can just do it all in one fell swoop?
Mhm.
No?
Okay.
Oh,
so-
that's it?
but
No,
That's it for my
fine. I mean,
commissioner's report. Thanks, Jim.
This is a team effort
I
here.
know.
I
There's
think
no-
those two issues will bring some expedience to the agenda. At least you'll see the resolutions and you'll know the funding source. I'm not completely sure that that's going to speed up getting the minutes turned around.
We'll find out.
And I will work with Madam Clerk on that. But I do wish to go back on this issue of how things are agended and the preparation that goes into those agending items. Remembering that people are making requests to you, and we can establish guidelines. We just have to enforce those guidelines. We sometimes establish them, and then we move off of them for various reasons, and people get slack out there. So you're going to get some phone calls once we start tightening up again.
Nothing wrong with efficiency.
Is there anything else,
No, I said
Commissioner Moore?
I said that, I was
That was
finished
it?
with Mr. Cortez's report.
Sorry.
I'd just like to
I appreciate the
remind
help.
the public and my fellow commissioners of the meeting tomorrow, Lorain County Community Alliance meeting at 9 o'clock at the new Patsy Campana Engineering Building at Lorain County Community College. And the program is going to be about GLIDE, which the commissioners are a partner in. So I think it'll be a very interesting meeting, and it is open to the public if anybody would like to come and join us. Thank you. Madam Clerk, old business, please.
Okay, first item, to accept and approve the improvements of Hillside Subdivision Number 8, Amherst Township, Edward J. and Wanda Lee Garkus developers, and accept the maintenance agreement for a period of 1 year. The plat for Hillside Number 8 is recorded in plat volume number 66, page 34 and 35, in Lorain County Record of Plats as follows. Stone Valley Drive with a road number of T-226 extending northerly from the north line of Hillside Number 8, 599.27 feet or 0.13 miles in length. Now authorize a release of the maintenance bond for Hillside Number 7, and a letter of credit for $8,000 has been issued by Lorain National Bank.
And this was on hold because the assistant prosecutor was going to review it.
Yes, Commissioners. I needed to clarify some language with the engineers that I had some concern with. I spoke with Wayne Milletti, and he explained why that was in there, and I have no problem with the proceeding at this point.
Thank you. I'll so move.
Second?
Mrs. Blair?
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Approve and enter into a contract with Smart Solution Incorporated of Cleveland, Ohio, in the amount of $44,000 for Cisco Network Hardware Maintenance Contract. 4 bids were received, and this was the lowest and most responsive.
This item was carried from last week. Commissioner Moore, I believe you asked for a week to study it. I hope you had...
I've had a week.
Thank you. I'll move for approval again.
Okay, I'll second.
Discussion?
Yes. I was looking at the variations of the 4 bids presented, and I'd like to call on Karen. I can't help but to think something is wrong here. Aren't there any other vendors located in Lorain County?
There are vendors that are able to do this in Lorain.
Would you come to the microphone, please, Karen? Thank you.
In answer to your question, Commissioner, yes, there are vendors in Lorain County that can do this. I want to first emphasize the importance of us having coverage on the Cisco equipment. It is definitely needed, as Brian Michaels had stated last week. My recommendation would be to go with this. However, I suggest we go with the 30-day cancellation notice. I do believe we should look into this further and consider block hours and a SmartNet contract.
All right, currently we have a contract for server maintenance of about $100,000, a PC maintenance contracts for about $80,000, and now you come before us with this Cisco contract for $40,000. It seems like a lot of money going out for our computer services.
It is. But we're talking three different items here. The $100,000 that you're talking about, I believe, is the compact, is it? That is coverage for, I think, the sensitive issues or the sensitive equipment would be the auditor's equipment. Then again, I'm not that familiar with what equipment that they have. As far as the equipment the commissioners have, it's a different story. But from day one, I have been talking and wanting to look into block hours coverage, because it seems to me, what did you say, about $200,000 we got in maintenance coverage for?
Well, there's $100,000, $80,000, and now another $44,000. When does this stop?
Well, probably.
And is all of it necessary?
Karen, we don't have any coverage right now on these, do we?
Not on the Cisco equipment, and it
Right.
should have been covered over 2 years ago.
I know, it could have, should have, would have. My understanding is that we bought this, we have no coverage. We should have had it since January, is my understanding, is when they started working on this. I don't know, I'm hearing different things. But my understanding, we have, what, 10, no, I'm not literate on this, but 10 switches that are callous that are about 30,000 apiece. We have...
I don't know.
No, that's what we have, and one of those breaks down, that's 30,000. I asked if we had any extras so we could plug them in case one does break down. We don't. I've researched it, and for what we're getting, the 44,000 seems sufficient to cover this for the next, what's the contract for? Is it for a year, I believe?
I am recommending that we go with it, with that 30-day clause, but upon your approach to me, Karen, can't we get this in block hours?
Right.
And I am saying to you, Commissioner, from day one, I have been saying, why don't we go with block hours?
And what you mean by block hours, Karen, is as needed, on an as-needed basis?
No, the way that works, Commissioners, for instance, right now you're talking a $40,000 contract with Smart Solution, who is out of the area. We have certified Cisco engineers here in the county that can give us a SmartNet solution or a SmartNet contract on our equipment and also sell block hours. For instance, we may want to buy 100 block hours. And if they charge you, what, $100? What is 100 times 100? If we use 100 hours, we'd still be ahead.
I think the issue was response time, though, was it not?
Well, with SmartNet, that's the point. With SmartNet, when a piece of equipment breaks down, which, speaking of in January, that's when I have obtained the coverage for the PIX firewall. When the equipment breaks down, SmartNet will replace the equipment if it cannot be repaired. You have your block hour support so that your engineer comes in and will swap it for you or diagnose it or whatever it may be. But you have two different issues here. You have a SmartNet contract, which is the manufacturer's contract, and then you have the vendor's contract, which is the labor.
I'm a big supporter of the block hours, but unfortunately that's not what we have right now. What we're looking at right now is that we have, 300,000 plus, maybe $500,000. I don't know what the actual dollar amount is. That's not that we have no service contract. Something breaks down because we're not approved right now, we're down a month. Is that true, or is that not true? I'm seeing nods. Okay, so I'm looking at this, is this a one-year contract? Is this a two-year contract? Or
What
is
did
this-
the agenda say last week? This is not complete information that was carried forward. I don't
Because I
have
don't
my
wanna-
agenda. What is the contract?
I don't know. I wasn't here last week. I was looking for it in here. I didn't find it. I hadn't seen it.
Well, why don't we, can we add our line on here to make sure the prosecutor reviews it and make sure it's in?
The prosecutor was reviewing the contract last week, according to Brian, and there were some adds to it, and
Right, we
you were
had some
looking at
language
that.
changes that we're
And
looking
Do you
had you
remember?
reviewed the contract in total then, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay.
And what was it for, a year or what?
Years
A year.
Okay,
Thank you, Yvonne. 1 year with the option to renew.
okay.